What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Heroically. I am your host, Riakeem, and tonight, people, I know I'm a week late. I'm recording this on the Sunday after the Wednesday where this episode was supposed to be published. I sat down to record. I was already late. I missed last Sunday, and I was already late recording the episode, so I tried to record it on Wednesday. Tuesday, our washer and dryer room broke down, so I had wet clothes for 3 days. Thursday night, I went to do the laundry, so I couldn't record Thursday night. Wednesday night, I sat down to record the episode, but I just wasn't feeling it. I got about 10 minutes in. I got about 10 good minutes of footage. And then it just all fell out. I was tired from work. Just quick reminder, I do these things, in addition to working a full-time job. And I make no money from these things. Not yet. But the goal is to one day earn a second stomach with the podcast. A second stomach with the podcast. But without further ado, people, we're just going to jump into this episode. And one thing I want to say is that this episode is going to be a part of a 3-part series. This episode is going to kind of make up for last episode that I missed, and I'm going to publish it probably a little bit early. And ideally, I'm going to try, no promises, but I'm going to try to record a second part to this on Wednesday and then post it Wednesday night or Thursday morning, and then I'm going to record even more on this upcoming Saturday. It'll be 3 episodes this week. I think I said that right. Did I say that right? I think I said that right. Because this week in general, all 3 of the ideas that I have, they're gonna take some time to really dissect and talk about, with today being the most lighthearted for sure. But today, well, let me give you a big overview about what's gonna happen. This arc I'm calling Forgiveness versus Redemption. We're going to talk about heroic characters who struggle in regards to understanding what forgiveness means, getting forgiveness from outside characters, giving forgiveness to those that have wronged them or those that have done wrong, villains or villains or other heroes, or the layperson, what have you. We're going to talk about redemption, characters who earn redemption through their acts, what is the difference between forgiveness and redemption, and how characters can kind of walk those paths, and what does it mean for good characters, and why I feel like good characters need that. And in tonight's episode properly, we're actually going to spend the first one of this mini series, if you will, talking about characters that are not the heroic ones. We're going to talk about the other characters, right? That's not to say that some of these characters that I might bring up in some of the examples, they might be heroes, but the large majority of them are just like, characters with with smaller amounts of development, characters that aren't necessarily the protagonists in their own stories. But I'm going to be talking about them through their framework and how they can interact with the hero. And then the next 2 parts in this series, one part is going to be strictly focused on, or mostly focused on, forgiveness, and then the last part in the series is going to kind of bring it all together, and we're going to kind of talk about everything that we've talked about up until that point. We're going to do a little bit of a recap, and we're going to talk about redemption at the end of it. I don't know what the title of this episode is going to be at the time of recording, but that's kind of the skinny. But I'm going to try something a little different too. Before we jump into the meat of the episode, also want to recap last week's episode, because that episode kind of flows into this series a little bit, right? We talked about, in the last episode of Heroically, sacrifice. We talked about sacrifice. Heroic characters need to sacrifice something. They need to lose a piece of themselves so that they understand what loss feels like. We see this a lot in storytelling, and we also see this a lot in our everyday lives, right? We wouldn't know, what the sunshine, we wouldn't know how good sunshine feels if there was no such thing as darkness. We wouldn't know just how good joy could feel if we didn't know what pain was. I believe in philosophy that concept is called structuralism, where there's always 2 opposite opposing things, and you always need both of those things to sort of balance out the other. Ain't no Coke without Pepsi. That's kind of the heart of it. No, ignore that example. It's light and dark, good and evil. These things that exist on polar opposites. and how they clash. So a hero needs to sacrifice something so they know they need to give up something so they can get something, oftentimes something better. So on the last video, we actually had a question by Carol Cummings. This question was submitted by Carol Cummings on the last video. And because I don't get a lot of questions and I want these things to be very conversational, I figured I'd start off. What better way than to answer the question? I'm going to kind of I have my notes over here. Whoosh. So if I ever look this way, remember that's where I'm looking for, my notes and my script. Although I'm going to kind of go off script here. It's already 5 minutes into this damn thing. This episode is going to be 30 minutes looking ass. That's me. I'm the looking ass there. So her question, Carol. By the way, Carol Cummings is my mother-in-law. Shout out to you, Mama Cummings. All right. So in essence, she asked, how can I be a hero without sacrificing my freedom? Bit of a snapshot to fill you in a little bit in some of the context without telling you my mother-in-law's whole life. She is a retired 7th grade science teacher, and right now she is doing a lot of different things to explore creative pursuits. This is someone who has been an educator her whole life, and now in her retirement she's trying to find ways to constantly connect with others and kind of continue to grow professionally, even though she has retired and has left that behind. And she does worry about some of the things. I won't say specifically everything about what she needs to sacrifice. And what I will say to answer that question and to create a parable with other heroes, oftentimes heroes don't get to choose what they sacrifice. That's the cold hard truth of the matter, is that oftentimes what the hero needs is indicated through what they have to sacrifice. And the best types of stories always take something away that the hero never really needed, or they take something that was holding that character back. In the case of Carol's question, she was worried about sacrificing her freedom, and that's an interesting one because as a black guy, I'm not about sacrificing any freedoms. Let me just say it like that. But you don't really get to choose what you sacrifice. In her case, it might be a type of freedom. In other heroes' cases, it typically is what the hero needs to lose to get stronger or to challenge them in a certain way. Now, I'm going to talk about Spider-Man in this episode a little bit later, but I want to give you an example about a sacrifice that the character needed. All right. And they didn't have a choice in the matter. Peter Parker, right when he becomes Spider-Man, he's getting the powers. I'm about to paraphrase or summarize what happens to Uncle Ben, right? If you don't know, now you know. No, if you don't know, Peter Parker, well, let's just use the 90s movie because that's what's fresh in my head, or the early 2000s movie. Ignore that if you can hear that. That's the stupid heater in our building. It makes like little ringly noises. But Peter Parker, he wins all this money in this fight club, but the owner of the club is going to shaft him and not give him his money, or enough of the money. So while he's leaving, he sees that the guy is getting robbed, and he makes a choice to not help the guy who shafted him for the money. He lets the guy get robbed. The robber gets away. He's like, I didn't see anything. The robber gets away. Peter Parker makes a choice, and that choice leads to a sacrifice. This is just one sacrifice. Characters can have multiple sacrifices, right? And the thing that he sacrifices, his actions lead to the death of Uncle Ben. And of course, that's not Peter Parker willingly giving something up, right? He's not throwing a quarter into a wishing well and sacrificing the quarter. It's a little bit more intangible than that, because he has had, based on his own choice, has had his Uncle Ben taken away from him, right? And now, because Uncle Ben is now gone, he has to face the consequences of his choices. So that sacrifice in this character arc, that loss for this character, is ultimately what inspires his growth, his redemption, his change, at least his later forgiveness. We're going to talk about those. I'm using all these buzzwords like forgiveness and redemption, and we're going to dig into them a little bit more. I'm going to unpack them as much as I can without actually giving any real answers, but just kind of having a discussion, right? By the end of this series, I doubt we're going to all learn something, but I doubt we will, I doubt I'll have any fundamental life truths or answers. But, this is more so a reflection. So, yeah, you don't get to choose what you sacrifice, but those sacrifices often lead us to the next steps in our journey. So, it takes a lot of self-discovery. It takes a lot of self-reflection. Thank you so much, Carol, for submitting that question that got us going here. Now, that's gonna kind of take us into what we're talking about. Excuse me for a minute while I scroll on the script. It's so interesting now because you guys can see me, and when you couldn't see me before, it was just I would just be moving stuff with my scrolling with my script and stuff, and I didn't have to worry about you guys looking at me. I could just ramble and talk about random stuff, but now you can see me. You can see every piece of me. In the comments, let me know if you want me to cut some of this stuff out, or I'm just kind of filling the space here. We'll keep it pretty casual, especially as I get more and more questions and I start answering questions to the best of my ability. I think that's going to be a cool way to begin the episodes, or maybe even anchor the episodes. We'll see what happens as more and more people begin to listen. So, forgiveness versus redemption. Forgiveness versus redemption. Some things that I want the next 3 episodes to address. When is someone not worth saving? When is someone not worth saving? Because, at the end of the day, that's what superheroes and heroic characters do. They save others, right? But you always wonder, and I've been watching a lot of things lately that kind of inspired this topic. When is someone not worth saving? I'll say exactly what I've been watching. This past week was the finale of A Good Place. And in fact, I was going to kind of dig into this in the podcast, but I think I'm going to do a whole episode or a whole TV series review. Oh, that's going to be fun to do a TV series review of A Good Place. So I'll probably do that at some point in the future, maybe in the coming weeks. We'll see what I have time to do and what I have the energy to do. But in that series, big spoilers if you haven't seen the show. If you care about spoilers, I hate to say this, but stop watching this and go watch A Good Place. But if you don't care about spoilers, stick around because I'm about to spoil the shit out of the whole series. At the very least in this episode. And that applies to everything I'm talking about today. Spoilers for everything. I can spoil any single thing ever that's ever existed, ever. I just might randomly pull something out because we're analyzing and we're discussing, right? So, A Good Place. Basically, it's about these humans who get into heaven. Turns out that heaven is hell, and they spend the totality of the series trying to not go to hell, and eventually their experiences and their adventures culminate in them redeeming humanity, or helping humanity earn the right to a better afterlife. And unless you've seen the show, I can't really explain it better than that. But basically, in short, everybody's going to hell, right? Based on the system that is developed in the show, everybody's going to hell. There's no possible way for someone to unlock heaven by being a good person on earth. Because of the way the system is set up, it's got a check-in and a savings. No, the way the system is set up, everyone is funneled into hell. But in the series, these protagonists, through the act of helping humanity and helping the angels and demons, and the judge, who is played by Maya Rudolph, aka the God character in this, they discover a new way where humanity, once they pass, or once each human dies or passes on, they have a redemption phase in the afterlife that allows them to get to heaven, that then allows them to choose eternal peace. It's a whole thing. But at the end of the day, I ask myself, being someone who, I'm not really a misanthrope, but I am mildly a misanthrope. Very highly mildly. You might say that if I was a hot one sauce and 10 being the most misanthropic and 1 being sriracha misanthropic, I'm probably sauce number 7. Like, there's some room in there for me to love humanity, but mostly I don't really. I do believe that humans are inherently evil, and we have to fight those inhibitions to be evil, and it is harder to be good than it is to be. It's easy to be bad. You know, Star Wars hit this on the head. It's easy to be bad because that's just kind of natural to be selfish and to do selfish things out of self-preservation. You know, you see fire, you don't want to touch it because it burns you, right? But you see someone else about to touch the fire, if you don't know that person and you don't care about that person at all, it's not to say that you are completely not going to warn that person about the fire, but you care more about you not getting burned than seeing that other person get burned. I just believe that that's the natural way that, not even just humans, animals are like that. You just see that a lot, right? We care more about self-preservation than anything else, really. And it's harder for us to care about self-preservation as a species. I mean, you know, we learn to care, and we're advanced. And I'm getting off on a terrible tangent. We'll talk more about my views on humanity in a way more episode where I'm very, very much intoxicated. We'll talk about that. I should do an intoxicated podcast. But that's neither here nor there. They save humanity. And I say all that to say that what is a character that's worth saving? In this case, I'm thinking about humanity from The Good Place, but just in general, in these heroic shows, why are some characters, even the worst characters, often saved by some of the better heroic characters? And is there a point where a character can be so unforgivable, so unredeemable that they shouldn't be saved? And then at that point, who gives the hero the right to choose? So that was a long ass introduction for an episode that's probably going to be a fairly long one. It's probably going to be a full hour tonight, boys. So stick around. Leave timestamps in the comment section if you do have questions to help me kind of go back and remember what it was I said, because I do just be up here rambling. I'll be running my mouth. So when is someone not worth saving, right? Why do heroes often save the unsavable? What does unsavable mean? We'll talk about that. Can someone ever not be worth saving? Forgiveness and redemption in 3 parts, boys. Here we go, boys and gals. Alright. So, it's Black History Month, and I wanted to kind of open up this episode with a quote. We're opening up the episode 17 minutes in. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. No, that's a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. I'll say it again. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. And why did I want to bring up that quote here specifically in the first, when we're talking about characters that deserve forgiveness and they don't deserve forgiveness, or they don't deserve redemption, or, you know, they don't deserve to be saved by the hero? Why did I bring up that quote? Because I think heroic characters, it is their job, it is their absolute duty. They not only are they responsible for saving the unsavable, helping those that don't deserve, helping those that don't deserve to be helped. Not only do I think it's a hero's responsibility to do that, I think they must do it in order to be the best hero they can be. And we're going to get into why that is. I think they must save the unsavable. Yes, I said it. The filthiest of criminals, those who really do deserve to be punished. I still think that every single character, full stop, should have the opportunity for redemption. Now, of course, this isn't the episode where we're going to talk about redemption. I spent so much time in this episode talking about what we're going to be talking about in the future, but there's just a lot to discuss here. So, now, without further ado, we're going to get into what I usually do with these things, and that's give a whole bunch of evidence and support from text and movies and video games and stuff like that. So, I did all the setup I wanted to do. Now let's talk about some examples. What are some types of characters who are unsavable or who don't want to be saved? I'll start off with the funny one. It's the first one that I wrote down on my notes over here. I'm way off the screen. Sorry, I'm not sitting too far back because I'm still working out the lighting with the green screen and such. And also, I feel like I'm at an angle here in my RoboCop shirt. But you know, it is what it is. So we'll start off with something fun. The Incredibles, right? One of my favorite scenes in all of cinematic history is when Mr. Incredible sees a person who is like trying to commit suicide, and he jumps from one building to another, catches the guy and crashes through a window, breaking most of his body parts and his back, and you see him later in this like neck cast. And he says a quote that I find really amusing. He goes, "You didn't save my life, you ruined my death, that's what you did." Just thinking about that quote really, really amuses me. But you didn't save my life, you ruined my death. And then you see the thing in the movie where heroes, or supers in this case, they start to get sued. That this is the event that catapults them going into hiding, because the public is like, no, we don't want heroes. They cause too much destruction. They didn't save my life. They ruined my death. The whole thing there. Sorry, I got distracted. But what does that mean? How do you ruin someone's death? Was he supposed to allow the character to commit suicide? Or was it Mr. Incredible's duty to save that booty? No, I'm just kidding. Or was it Mr. Incredible's duty to save the guy who was committing suicide? And what does saving in that case mean? And this is a case where it's so complicated, because at the end of the day, humans deserve autonomy, right? But under what conditions does someone feel the need to take their own life? And at that point, when is it okay for someone to intervene? Because either we're on the side where we have complete autonomy, and if someone wants to take their own life, by George, they have the right to do it. But then also, does that mean they have a mental impairment and they shouldn't be able to do it? But what is the hero's role in the situation? And in this case, I think the hero just has to save the person. At the end of the day, I think no matter what the person wants in that case, the hero has to make a choice to be the hero and save them from themselves. Saving characters from themselves is going to be a big root, or a big thing that kind of flows over into some other examples that I'm going to get into. Saving characters from themselves. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a very difficult thing to save characters from themselves. This is another example. This is a character who, and this is not a superheroic character, although you can kind of course this character does have a very similar journey. I'm going to talk about Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump! I love Forrest Gump. It's such a fantastical movie where he's like running across the world. I had a conversation about whether Forrest Gump was a fantasy or a sci-fi, and if it was just like, neither of those things and just like a drama. And I had forgotten that Forrest Gump had a lot of like magical realism to it, like the idea that he was strong enough to carry all those people off of the battlefield, or that he could run that far, that he could train his legs to actually, destroy his muscular dystrophy thing that he had. There's a lot of like little things in there, but it's just grounded in realism enough to make you forget those things after you haven't seen it in a while. But Forrest Gump, and a character, so let's say in this example, Forrest Gump is the hero. And Forrest Gump, who does he want to save? Say it with me now. Jenny. But just like the "you didn't save my life, you ruined my death" guy, Jenny is a character who, if she has her own self-autonomy, which she does, is choosing to not be saved. That's her entire life, you know. Forrest being the character to love Jenny and desire Jenny, to be Jenny's best friend, to protect Jenny. As heroic as his actions may be, all he can do at the end of the day is continue to try to save Jenny. That's all he can do. Even if that means he, at the end of the day, can't actually save Jenny, all he can do is continue to be a good hero and try. It is when he doesn't try to save Jenny, even if it's from herself, right? We're talking about saving characters from themselves, because it's Jenny's choices, her actions, her life of circumstance, you know, having an abusive father and going into abusive relationships, constantly running away from Forrest and getting involved in all these negative situations, these negative situations that, you know, reflect the point on her. Forrest has to choose to save her, or else that is a chink in his heroic character. It's a tough gig. It's a tough gig being a hero. You know, pimping ain't easy. Pimping ain't easy. But also, pimping's easy. To quote Dave Chappelle. But no, he has to continuously choose to save her. And the moments where he doesn't, which never happens, if you rewatch the movie, you'll notice that he always chooses to save her, or to try to save her. But at the end of the day, these characters that need to be saved from themselves, ultimately, it's their own choice. They still have that autonomy, because a self-destructive character, whether they are saved by the hero can't always be there to save them. When they are, they have to be. But when they're not, they have to kind of save themselves. And that's something that Forrest actually does learn, very harshly, I might add, when he finds out that he has like this 10-year-old kid by a woman that he loved. You know, that definitely rewatch Forrest Gump. This is definitely a promotion to go back and rewatch it. I would like to rewatch it. I haven't seen it in quite some time. Remember, I'm talking about this movie. I haven't seen this movie in a year or two at least. So yeah, so The Incredibles, Forrest Gump, those are two examples of saving those who don't want to be saved. Jenny from Forrest Gump, the suicide guy from The Incredibles. So what other types of characters are there that a hero saves? You have those that don't want to be saved. That's the clear and easy one. But what else? What about villains? Villains, you know, on a different stance, they don't necessarily don't want to be saved, because their setup is a little bit different. The villains in this case, it's a little tricky, right? Especially when you have, like, there's two types of villains. There's the faceless, and then there's the face, right? And I'm not talking about the faceless. Those are just like plot throwaway characters, right? They don't lead to any emotional tangibility to the character. No growth comes from their survival or destruction. Most of them don't have names. I'm talking about your putties, your foot soldiers, your you know, like bank robber number 3s, all those. They aren't like the big villain that earns their own redemption or forgiveness, possibly. And oftentimes they're just dispatched, right? And I'm gonna talk about Batman here. Batman's probably the biggest one here. But Batman has to go through a lot of the goon type characters, right? The disposable, to get to the true villain. So just keep that in mind. I'm talking about the named villains, the jokers of it all. Batman always saves the Joker. Batman always saves the Joker. But why? But why? And if you're watching this and you're like some big Batman fan, I'm a decent Batman fan. I'm not like the hugest Batman fan. You can obviously be in the comments and be like, actually, in issue number 74 of Batman versus the Joker in space, Batman actually shot Joker in the foot, causing internal bleeding, and he killed the Joker. You could be that guy, right? But that's not what we're talking about here, obviously. Most times when we see Batman, he chooses not to save Joker, you know. He catches him from the burn. You can't see my hand. He catches him from the burning, you know, from falling out of the burning building, and he pulls him up. He sends him back to Arkham. even though Arkham Asylum hasn't rehabilitated anyone since 1830s. I don't know if that's true. I just made up a date. That's actually like the Emory University founding year or something in the 1830s. 1836? I don't remember. But he always saves the Joker. He always saves the Joker. But why? Why does Batman choose to save the villain? I would say probably one of the villains that he hates the most. The villain that gives him the most upset stomach, if you will. The villain that just grinds his gears, man. He always saves the Joker. And I think it kind of goes back to that saving those that don't want to be saved. As a hero, this is why I am not a hero. But as a hero, you have to believe that the worst of us, the absolute worst of us, have the capacity for change. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true for Batman. I don't know if he believes that the Joker can grow and change and become a not Joker to become an ace. Ace chemicals. But the hero has to believe that they can. It's fun, right? Every now and then to see the hero be an anti-hero where they're face off with the bad guy, and then the bad guy gives them the "You're not going to kill me," and then the hero does something super anti, like grabs a gun and pow, and kills the character, and then washes his hand, and he turns around and looks at his friends that are like, "Oh, you just killed him," and then you get the boom 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 boom. You get those. You get those moments. Oh, don't copyright that. That me using that sound of me making it was copyrightable. But we have to separate too, and I want to make this distinction before we get into the next two videos. We have to separate hero and anti-hero. Of course, an anti-hero doesn't necessarily have to save everyone or try to, but that's why they're anti-heroes, right? They're anti-heroes because they are the anti of what a hero is supposed to do, with heroic elements, of course. That they have to have some type of hero in them, not sexually, but they're anti-heroes, so they have to be anti. But in this case, we're talking about heroic characters that are true good characters. They have to save those who don't want to save themselves, can't save themselves. That's the easy one, right? I skipped this, I forgot this. They can't save themselves. They have to save them. These are all the people that live in Sokovia, right? They have to save them. They have to do what they can to save them. They lose, of course. We're going to get into that when they fail, but that's the next part. Another example of a hero who always saves the villain. And we think, as audiences, we think he's a damn fool for it. We think he's an idiot. But it must be done. And it saved him more often than it has not. Goku. Oh, we're getting into anime a little bit. We talked about anime on this channel before. Or on the podcast before. We talked about anime. Goku. Goku is forever the truest to heart hero. Goku is so pure of a hero's heart that his own heart can't take it. And in the Android Saga, he gets a heart disease. That's how pure this motherfucker's heart is, man. He puts so much stress on it. So that's Goku. So what does Goku do to save the villain? You have the Frieza Saga. This is one of the first times. I can't remember a good example of the Raditz Saga. Or the Saiyan Saga, what it is. No, I skipped the Saiyan Saga. Okay. Let's talk about Vegeta, right? He has the opportunity to defeat Vegeta, but instead he lets Vegeta go. Vegeta is personally my favorite character from Dragon Ball Z. It used to be Piccolo. I don't know why. But as I got older, I realized the gangster that was Vegeta. But Vegeta was a villain. Vegeta actually I'm gonna have to remember to talk about Vegeta in the next couple episodes, because if any character has gotten forgiveness and redemption, it's definitely Vegeta. But Vegeta started off as a villain. He came to kidnap Gohan. That would be a good alternate universe story. Vegeta kidnapping Gohan and raising him to be a true, like, fighting Saiyan. Because Goku was a terrible dad. No. He was gonna kidnap Gohan. He was gonna murder Goku. Kakarot. And he was just gonna murder everybody with his little creatures, him and Nappa, right? But because Goku spares him, not only does Vegeta turn his life around completely, he's still the principal Saiyans, but he becomes a character that becomes such an asset to Goku in the future. Goku and the Z team could never have defeated some of their future villains or enemies or whatever if Vegeta had not been spared. Another time Goku saves the villain is when he spares Frieza's life. Even though Frieza is going to murder him the moment he turns around, Goku spares him. He spares all the villains. But why does Goku do it? Because Goku believes that even the worst of us, the villains, the evil, racist enslavers, like what Frieza was. Frieza, basically the Hitler of the Dragon Ball Z universe, who enslaved a whole race of being, and then before they had their rebellious moment, Frieza just murdered them all and committed a genocide of an entire race of people. The whole Saiyan race, genocided, I don't know how you say it. Save for Vegeta and Goku and a few others here and there. And then we're not talking about like alternate universes and tournaments with Universe 7 and all that stuff, but even someone who had murdered a whole species of people, Goku felt like they could somehow earn redemption. And that begs the question, when the hero saves the villain or someone who doesn't necessarily desire to be saved, why does the hero get to choose? And if it was another hero and they chose to not do that, to not have forgiveness or mercy, does that take away from their herohood? I don't have an answer, but I think it's an interesting thing to talk about. So in the comments, let me know what you think. So we have innocents who don't want to be saved. We have saving the villain. And we talked about Batman always saving the Joker. We talked about Goku from Dragon Ball Z always saving the thing. Oh, this one's fun. I don't know which one I want to talk about next, but we still have a few more saving the villains that I really wanted to give evidence. And because I missed an episode, I'm okay making the content in this one just a little bit longer. One of my favorite TV shows of all time in existence is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, you may be thinking, when do they save someone who doesn't want to be saved? Aang, people! Aang saves Fire Lord Ozai, and I think it's one of the best animated finales to ever exist on television. I remember I don't remember because I'm trying to remember now. I think it came on one evening after school, or it was like on a Saturday or Sunday. But I remember waiting for this finale. And I remember getting home and it coming on, and then at this point we had no idea what Aang was going to do. We were like, all right, Aang can never kill anybody. That's just who Aang is. That's his character. But the only way to defeat Fire Lord Ozai is to kill him. At this point, there was no taking bending away. We had no idea that he could do this or that it would be successful if he tried to do it. And that was tense alone. Just knowing how is Aang, in order to defeat Ozai, Aang has to betray every single piece of who he is as a character, as the hero. His code is that he cannot kill another species. He's even a damn vegetarian. I think he's a vegetarian. Wife, is Aang a vegetarian?
Yes.
Aang is a goddamn on vegetarian. See, I remember things, people. He loves life so much. So we're watching this episode and it's like, oh shit, and my mom came in the room. Rock, what you watching? Shut up, Mom, get out. I don't have time to explain it because we're like on bated breath. What is he gonna do? And the way he overcomes it is a type of he offers Fire Lord Ozai a type of mercy, a type of forgiveness. Even though we would probably say that Fire Lord Ozai doesn't deserve this forgiveness. We wanted we wanted Fire Lord Ozai's head on a pike. We wanted him out of there. We were ready. We were like, oh, you won't have to kill him today. But he did it. He found a way to turn such a tense moment and make it and come out on top as the heroic character that we all knew him to be by doing the 3 little head thing and taking away Fire Lord Ozai's bending. Incredible moment of forgiveness in the character, of self-preservation, of not causing Aang to act outside of his character, and it was just a beautiful moment where the hero saves the villain. Now what did that do to Fire Lord Ozai, right? Because of course he's still a dick. He's still a he's just is now a dick who can't shoot fireballs out of his hands. You know, he can't shoot little zappy zaps of electricity. But it punishes him in a very unique way. Because now that he has been stripped of his ability to villainize and terrorize others, Aang has in essence stopped the villain. Like, what is he gonna do? He he really can't do anything. I also think he gets like locked up, or actually I don't remember. The losing of the bending was much more impactful to me than what actually happened to Fire Lord Ozai. I should have looked it up before recording because I knew I was going to talk about it, but it's interesting because I don't remember if he I remember him like trying to throw fireballs, and it was a sad moment because he just couldn't get it up. He just couldn't do it. He couldn't do it. He could not do it. But I don't remember having that. Either way, his story was he was basically defeated, and Aang forgave him as the villain. Granted, this was a Fire Lord who did some pretty bad things. He murdered. He injured his own son. There's a lot of darkness in this guy's backstory to the point where you wouldn't think that he was even worthy of forgiveness or redemption. But somehow Aang discovered a way. The other thing I was going to talk about was Spider-Man, but I think I already gave enough of that in the beginning, and I want to move on because the episode is running long, but I like it like that. The last, there's 2 more topics, but the true last one is really brief, and is really just more of a segue into what I'm going to talk about in the next, pieces of this. The next area we're going to talk about, we talked about saving those that are evil, that are the villain, saving those that don't want to be saved, that can't save themselves. I want to end it with one that's kind of in the middle. This is one that's kind of in the middle. We're going to talk about characters that are not the hero, of course, that sometimes don't even know that they need to be saved. And I'm talking about, sorry I keep scratching my nose. I don't look like a little nose hair that's coming out, tickling me, my shiny head and me. Swing! This episode is brought to you by rubbing alcohol. No. So I'm going to talk about saving the despicable. Now, what do I mean when I say the despicable? I'm talking about characters that they're not evil. I wouldn't classify these characters as evil. But then also, it's hard for me to classify most characters as evil because I like to classify characters as gray. There's no true good character, no true evil character. Most characters exist on a spectrum. Most characters have a capacity to be good and a capacity to be or do evil. That's a different soapbox. But in this case, let's keep it structuralist and say good, evil, right? These are characters that do skirt that line. These are the gray characters, the despicable. What do I mean by the gray characters? Not good, not evil, right? These are characters that often make bad decisions, but don't need to be defeated. They might need to be overcome. And I see a little bit of difference there. You're probably confused about what I meant. Oh, my SD card is getting full. Ooh, boom, 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 boom. I got about 30 minutes left on the SD card. That's fine. This episode will be wrapped up by then. So what do I mean by the despicable? I'll start off by the example, so that'll kind of help put it into context. This might be the last example of this piece. Dudley Dursley. Yeah, you're happy about this, right? Yeah, no, see, I'm a smart guy. Dudley Dursley. Dudley Dursley. The Dursleys, I'm not thinking Pivot Drive. I forgot their address. Something Pivot Drive. Number 4. I knew she was gonna. I was almost gonna be like, what's the address of the number 4 Pivot Drive? Dudley Dursley. Now, what do I mean by the despicable? Dudley Dursley is not an evil character. He is never an evil character. He is a despicable character. We don't like him based on how he treats Harry. But I'd like to offer you this. In books 1, and of course in the earlier movies, Dudley's just a kid. Kids can be cruel. Kids can be bullies. At that age that we see him in the beginning, he is basically embodying his parents' hatred towards Harry. He doesn't really know why he hates Harry. He knows Harry is different. He knows Harry is other. And he knows that his parents hate Harry. That's what he's been taught to do. But he is a child. And I would say that to a certain extent, it can be possible, but it is difficult for children characters to be evil. Of course, you have your Children of the Corns, and those sons of bitches are all evil. But a character like this, that's grounded in reality, in a magical fantasy, I don't think they have the capacity to be truly evil yet. They can grow into it, but he definitely exists on this gray. He's basically just a bully, right? And not all bullies are evil. He just bullies out of some weird sort of self-pride and mirroring what his parents do, right? Alright, now I got that out of the way. He is a despicable character because he's certainly not good, right? Because of his actions, and every character, no matter how old they are, has some modicum of choice. So I would say that he floats in this despicable mark, right? So why would Harry, when presented the opportunity, Harry in this case being the heroic character, why would Harry choose to save someone who has been nothing but nasty to him, who has been a terrible adoptive brother? Because at the end of the day, yes, I mean, I guess they're cousins, but they grew up together. If you really think about it, they spent 13 of their lives, of their developmental years, raised under the same roof by the same parents. They have to see each other as brother characters. Oh, that's going to be a good episode. One day I'm going to talk about brothers, because I love brotherhood relationships. I wish we got a little bit more of that with Dudley Dursley and Harry Potter. That would have been a cool little road trip adventure to see. Maybe no rolling. Don't write anymore. Stop. Never mind. I don't want it. I don't want to learn that that Dursley was actually born a girl and his parents had him changed his sexual identity, and then I don't want it. Don't do it, J.K. Rowling. Don't fucking do it. Neither here nor there. I've gotten so tangential. The Dementor attack. Let's jump right into it. The Dementor attack. Harry saves Dudley, and at this point we don't really truly know, because in a scene prior, Dudley had just been bullying Harry. It's like, God damn it. We're fucking teenagers now, man. Get out of your dad's fucking shadow. You fucking moron. Lose some weight, too. Said to me. But we see him being this despicable character, right? But he's not... We don't hate... I don't know if this is just me. This might just be me, but I don't hate Dudley as much as I pity Dudley, right? I pity him. I pity him. I pity the fool. But Harry chooses to save him. Now, what does that even mean? Why does Harry save Dudley? Because, as I said before, the hero doesn't really have a choice. Not to be the hero. It's a hard life. And again, y'all know it ain't easy. Pimping. Pimping ain't easy, people. He has to save Dudley. There is no world or no story where Harry is a heroic character where he doesn't save Dudley in the tunnels there from the Dementor attack. And then I'm gonna save this for later, but just think about, what does that do when the hero saves someone who is despicable or a villain or unsavable? And think back to, and I kind of spoiled it a little bit, I should have watched my damn mouth because I'm giving away what I'm going to talk about in some of the later episodes. But think about what happens to some of these characters that we sometimes think don't deserve to be saved. What happens to them? What happens to the Vegetas? What happens to the Dudleys? These characters that are so unsavable. And who gets to decide? Why do the heroes get to decide who doesn't get to be saved? And I argue that they don't. They have to save everybody, even when they don't want to, or else they lose a little piece of them that makes them a hero. One thing I would have liked to have done, and I might do this in the top of the next episode, is to give you some of the counter examples, right? What happens when a hero chooses to not save the villain or the despicable, and what does saving necessarily look like? Because sometimes saving could just mean doing the action that helps them get redeemed the most, right? Sometimes there is redemption in death. I will say that as like a sort of a tricky way out, right? But sometimes, arresting the hero is saving the hero. Sometimes finishing the hero off is doing all you can to save the hero, or just to save others. Sometimes the villain is so despicable that defeating that villain is saving others, right? So sometimes you have to think like, oh, they might have defeated the villain, but at what cost to themselves? But they might have saved like 1,000 more people. And then it gets very, we were watching The Good Place, so we'll call it the Charlie incident. So that's a good place to bring it all back. As we wrap up the first part of this episode. Let's bring it on back to me. The Good Place. The Good Place is what inspired this. They have to save all of humanity. So, in this case, we've talked about heroes who have to save the villain, heroes who have to save the despicable, and heroes who have to save the unwanting, the characters that don't want to be saved. But now, it's a much different ballgame when you have heroes that have to save everything. They have to save the villains, the despicable, the unsavory characters. They're heroes who have to save everything, right? They have to bring back the good with the bad. And what does that thing look like? That's something we're going to talk a little bit more about in the coming up episodes, but some things to consider. The Good Place finale, right? If you haven't watched it, go watch it. I'm telling you, we're going to really dig it. That's an example of they have to save in everything, right? Because if they fail, then what does that mean? And in The Good Place, they're saving all of humanity. What does it mean for them to fail? In Avengers Endgame, more specific, not Endgame, but in the Avengers 3, I can't remember the thing, Infinity War, they fail. They don't save everything. They lose half of everything. They fail. So what does it mean to fail? And how can that failure lead to forgiveness and redemption? And that, my friends, is going to wrap up this week, which is basically last week's episode of Heroically. Wow. Well, it's about that time that I hit the old dusty trail. Actually, no. This is only the first part of this episode. I promise you guys a little bit longer of an episode. So I'm actually going to take a quick break. So you'll see like some kind of title card here saying back in a minute or two. Really, it'll just be, for me, it'll be like 10 to 15 minute break. But for you guys, it'll be like, hey everybody, I'm back. Took a brief little break there, but I wanted to actually wrap up the episode proper with my hero of the week. Now, it's Black History Month, people, so every episode that I put out this month, maybe for the next 2 or 3, maybe 4 episodes, we have a long February this year, but I've already missed one. I'm going to feature a black hero, a hero from African American history that is meaningful to me on a personal level. And for this very first hero of the week, hero of the month for African, for Black History Month, is Ralph Ellison. Now, I've only ever read one book by Ralph Ellison. I don't know much about Ralph Ellison, but I do know that I was in high school, right? So I was in the 12th grade when I read this book. It's a book by Ralph Ellison called Invisible Man. It's about a young, unnamed black protagonist that goes through the hero's journey. And the reason why I wanted to give Ralph Ellison this sort of featurette, and I definitely encourage everyone to go out and read the book Invisible Man. I need to reread it actually, because I haven't read it since high school, so I'm very rusty on the details. When I was a senior in high school, I was still, like, freshman year was the year where I decided I want to go to college to pursue a journalism or an English or a writing degree of some sort. I still at that point didn't know that I could get a degree in creative writing. I figured I would just have to get like an English or journalism degree and use that to write. And it wasn't until I got to college that I discovered that there was a creative writing degree. But when I was in the 12th grade, that is when I learned of the hero's journey properly, right? So, like, I knew about the hero's journey, right? I knew that it existed. I knew that there were certain structures that characters go on, right? But my teacher, Mrs. Johnson, at the time, she actually used Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man to teach the class the hero's journey. So I learned about the hero's journey in a structured way through Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. And as a young black man, at the time I was a young black kid, right? As a young black man who was on this path of self-discovery, wanting to become a writer of some sort in the future, Invisible Man really stuck with me as a black character that went on this journey of self-discovery. He had all the things. He had mentor figures. He had a crossing of the first threshold. He had an ordinary world, and he had a world that he had to return to at the end of the story after reflecting and learning all the lessons that he learns through the narrative that he gives us, because it takes place in a time where he's like telling us about his past. But yeah, Ralph Ellison gets my hero of the week, giving a little bit of a spotlight to the black hero in literature. I definitely recommend you check out some of his writings, specifically Invisible Man, because it is what I have read. And also, you don't really hear people talking about Ralph Ellison too much these days. He doesn't get a whole lot of love, but very instrumental to me specifically, because that studying the hero's journey is ultimately what inspired this channel, is my love of the hero's journey and my love of characters from literature, and specifically wanting to write black characters for young black men. Having a character such as the unnamed protagonist in Invisible Man are so meaningful, and were meaningful to me, and they can definitely be meaningful to others, so check that out. I had a villain of the week, but honestly I just feel like in Black History Month I'm just gonna keep it to the black heroes. I'm not going to give you guys a black villain. Why would I do that? Although there are some. There are some, of course. There's villains everywhere, of course. But we're just going to do the hero this week, and we'll cut it there. Make sure you guys watch the episodes 1 through 3 this year. Check them out. I still haven't taken the time to put them on Spotify or anywhere else yet, but I'm gonna work on it soon. I promise. I just need to find the time to do it. And I need to, when I have the time to do it, actually take the time and sit down and do it. It's not like Anchor, where once I finish the episode and I hit publish, it automatically sends it everywhere. I have to find the time to do it. Oh man, I just don't make it. I'll be tired when I get home. I'll be tired when I be recording these things. But yeah, I thank you guys so much for watching. I'm very excited to get into this forgiveness versus redemption arc. Let me know if you have any questions about the differences between forgiveness versus redemption. I'm spinning around on the camera, not really paying attention to where I'm seated. And I forgot, because I'm wrapping up. I got big tired energy. But thank you guys again for watching. I love you guys, and I hope you love me. I learned something, and I hope you learned something too. And most of all, I had fun, and I hope you guys had fun as well. Love me. No, I'm just kidding. Well, have a good rest of your week. Again, I'm going to try to get this episode out sooner rather than later. And hopefully you're watching this on Sunday night or Monday morning so that on Wednesday I can do another one of these bad boys. We'll see. I have a friend date on Wednesday. I might have to bail. And then this weekend we'll do another one. But we shall see. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.